Romans chapter 13, verse 3, it says, "For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? Do that which is good, and thou shalt have praise of the same. For he is a minister of God to thee for good. But if thou do that which is evil, be afraid, for it beareth not the sword in vain. For he is a minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil. Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake. For this cause pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing." Now, as we took a look at where we left off on Monday night, we left off at verse number 4. We're going to take a look at verse number 5 and 6, where it says, "Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake." And now what he's saying is that we need to be subject to those rulers that we have in this country. We need to be subject to the law, subject to the judges, subject to the law, because they are, where it says, because rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. And that for he is a minister of God to thee for good, but if thou do which thou which is evil, be afraid, for he beareth not the sword in vain. So we look at those rulers as we got to go over some overlap, some of the stuff we talked about on Monday night. The rulers that we have, they're a terror. For rulers are not a terror to good works, but to the evil. Wilt thou then not be afraid of the power? So we are supposed to understand what our rulers are supposed to do. Now, in this country, the government we have, ask yourself the question, what's the purpose of our government?
Keep the people safe.
Keep the people safe, exactly, right? You have to uphold the rule of law. So, really, who's the ones who should be fear the rulers?
Evildoers.
Yeah, evildoers, right? Those people who are doing wrong. So the reason we have that government is because they're to praise them to do well and to punish them who do evil. So when it's saying in verse 5, "Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake," when he's saying that we need to be subject to wrath, in the sense that, the rulers, as it says in Romans chapter 13, verse 4, it says, "For he is a minister of God, a revenger to execute wrath upon him that doeth evil." So we ought to know that those people, if we step out of line, if we do things that are wrong, the government is there to punish us. Now, if I went out and let's face it, if I went out and killed a man, you'd want justice in this country, right? If I went out and stole a lot of money, if I did a lot of bad things, if I was investing money, or I was doing a lot of wicked things, you would want that wrath to come upon me. So it says in verse 5, "Wherefore ye must needs be subject, not only for wrath, but also for conscience sake." Verse 6, "For this cause, because they're doing this, pay ye tribute also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing." So because they're doing these things, because our government is doing these things, they're supposed to uphold the law. They're supposed to punish the evildoers. They're supposed to give praise to them that do well. That is the proper function when it's done right. And because of that, we ought to pay tribute in the sense that that needs to be financed. Someone has to pay for that. And there's nothing wrong with paying for those things. There's legitimate things that need to be done. We don't want anarchy. Now it's saying, of course, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. And it's just to kind of backtrack what we talked about on Monday night, they are God's ministers. Those people who have been put in by God in these positions of power, as it says in Romans 13, let every soul, verse 1, let every soul be subject unto the higher powers, for there is no power but of God, the powers that be are ordained of God. So these people are the ministers. They are God's ministers. They were put there in place. God put them in place. Now, let's face it, God doesn't always put great men in place. We get what we deserve many times, and that's the case, exactly the case when we've gotten in Canada. I think we've gotten what we deserve by not upholding God's law, by not upholding those things that God wants us to do, by not upholding the Bible and those principles that line in the Bible and the morality that we want to have in the Bible. We've got to move God. Now, if you turn your Bibles to Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 2. Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 2. And it says in Ecclesiastes 8, verse 2, is this. I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment, and that in regard of the oath of God. So he's saying here that I counsel thee to keep the king's commandment. So as Christians, are we not supposed to obey the government? Absolutely, right? As long as that government is not encroaching on God's law, and there's not some type of discrepancy. But as Christians, we are to do that. That is a good testimony. We're to do that because what the government is supposed to do, and what we need to remind people its function is, right, is to punish those who do evil and for the praise of them that do well. Now, there's many things our government gets involved in today that they should not get involved in. But we are just remind people that we don't stand for those things. But the reason why we follow along, the reason why we try to be good citizens, the reason why we do those things is because we're supposed to do those things, and because we believe that if they're doing the right job and upholding the good and punishing the evil, that's what we want them to do. But we ought to be vocal in those things when they step out of line, and they start, when they start doing things that are wrong. Now you think about where it says, if we turn to going back, take a look at verse 7 again. It says, "You'll render therefore to all their dues." So Romans chapter 13, verse 7, "Render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to whom custom, fear to whom fear, honor to whom honor." So it's saying that we ought to honor those people who have been put in that place. So there's nothing wrong with giving honor to a police officer. There's nothing wrong with giving honor to a judge. There's nothing wrong with even Justin Trudeau. There's nothing wrong with giving honor to him. Now, let's face it, he doesn't really deserve that honor. But to give him the respect, giving him that respect will only do good things for you. Because by giving him respect, he's more likely to listen to what you say. So when it says, "You'll render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due, custom to custom, fear to whom fear, honor to honor." Of course, we got to fear those people. We fear God. We fear those people in a sense. We fear those people in leadership over us. Now, where it says, "You'll render therefore to all their dues, tribute to whom tribute is due." Now, when we think about this, do we not pay a lot of taxes in this country? Do we pay a lot of taxes in this country? I'll be honest with you. Why do I pay taxes? We pay taxes because we want to see thieves punished, right? We pay taxes because we want to see thieves punished. We pay taxes because we want to see murderers punished. We pay taxes because we want the government to put away evil. We pay taxes because we want these pedophiles to be punished. We pay taxes because we want to see law and order. Now, I'll tell you some reasons why I don't pay taxes. I don't pay taxes so this government can rob Peter to pay Paul and call that justice. I don't pay taxes because I want people to take money out of my hard-earned money and give it to somebody who's not willing to work to earn money. I don't pay taxes for that reason. We don't pay taxes because we want to see a bunch of abortions take place and an abortion and finance it. We don't pay taxes because we want to promote kind of abomination that goes on in this world. We don't want to pay taxes to promote the transgender movement or the sodomite agenda. We don't want to pay taxes to promote a culture that promotes divorce, to promote a culture that promotes fornication, a man sleeping with a woman sleeping with a man that's not married. We don't pay taxes so we can give special privileges to large corporations so they can make more money. We don't pay taxes for those reasons. Now, so we have some conflict here. Now, if the government was to do its real job, and to be the rewarder and him that does good, the grace for them to do well, and the punishment to do evil, we have a great system. So when we want to, as Christians, sometimes it's hard in this country, right, to think about being a good citizen. But when we're doing that because we believe if the government was actually following what it was supposed to do in its proper functions, it would be a pretty good system. And we're just to tell people that, and we're to tell people that the reason why we're doing that, and we're to be vocal about those things that we don't like. Now, to continue on, if you turn your Bibles to Romans chapter 13, verse 7. Romans chapter 13, verse 7. Matthew 22, verse 21. Matthew 22, verse 21. And it says in Matthew 22, verse 21, it says, they say unto them, Caesar's. And then saith he unto them, render therefore unto Caesar the things that are Caesar, and unto God the things that are God's. So, of course, this is the famous verse, right? Where they say, should we pay tribute unto Caesar? The people come to Jesus and should we pay tribute unto Caesar? They're trying to catch him in his own words. They're trying to get Jesus to say, hey, don't pay your taxes or don't pay your tribute to Caesar. Because they know if they did that, they can get the Romans right after. But he says, render therefore unto Caesar things of Caesar's, and unto God the things which be God. So we just got to have that same mentality. I mean, how many people, I bet you most people don't like that time of year where you got to file your taxes, right? I mean, isn't it bad enough that they just rip us apart with taxes, but then they make us file a bunch of papers telling us about how much money we made, and they make us go through all this hassle, and then just instead of just saying, hey, you owe us this, just pay it. We got to go all this paperwork, and there wouldn't really be anything wrong with paying taxes if the government wasn't wasting it in so many places and giving it to people who don't deserve it and robbing Peter to pay Paul. It wouldn't be so bad. But it says, look, render therefore unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, unto God the things which are God, that be God's. And the time where it's so hard to do that, just remember, hey, God has so much more money than Caesar has. And God, let's just render to God those things that are God's. And let's not worry so much about the kind of injustices. Let's not worry so much about the kind of injustices we see. And just realize, let's just render unto God the things that are God's. God will take care of it. Kind of like that story where I think it was, I can't remember who it was Jesus talked to one of his apostles, and he says, he says, just go take I think he said, go find a fish and you'll find and go fish. And he's talking about should we pay these people? Should we pay these people the tribute money? He says basically, I just gotta paraphrase and say like, go out and fish. You'll find a fish and there'll be a piece of money in his mouth. God will give us that money. When we're being cheated, if we're being cheated, we're not being treated fairly. God will render therefore to Caesar the things be Caesar, unto God the things be God's. God will take care of us. God will right those wrongs. God has power to do that. Now we continue on in Romans chapter 13. Romans chapter 13, verse 8. And it says in Romans chapter 13, verse 8, it says, you owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. See, and if you can turn your Bibles to James chapter 2, James chapter 2, verse 8. James chapter 2, verse 8. It says here, in James 2:8, if you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, ye do well. And what he's saying, when it all really comes down to it is, we just gotta love our neighbors. That's one of the, owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law. We don't need to owe someone money. We don't need to owe them some type of favor. Just the only thing we need to owe people is just love people, and that is better than anything in the world. And they continue on in Romans chapter 13, verse 9. It says, "For this, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness, thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment is briefly comprehended in the saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself." And if you turn to Exodus chapter 20, Exodus chapter 20, verse 13, Exodus 20, 13. Exodus 20, 13. And here we have a reference here. We have in Romans chapter 13, verse 9, we have basically a reference going back to the Ten Commandments. How many people are familiar with the Ten Commandments? Everybody can say yes, right? Now we have here a reference here in Romans chapter 13, verse 9. He's basically summarizing some of the Ten Commandments. He's summarizing commandments basically 6 to 10. Exodus 20:13 says, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Now, of course, we know all these. We know that we're not supposed to kill people that's obviously very wrong. That's got to be one of the worst things that we can imagine a human being doing. But if you could turn your Bibles to Matthew chapter 5. Matthew chapter 5. Now, in the Old Testament, there was commandment, that thou shalt not kill. Everybody, even an unsaved person, knows that that is not at all something we should ever do. But, of course, the New Testament sets a bit of a higher standard when it comes to these types of commandments. Where it says here in Matthew chapter 5:21, you have heard that it is said by them of old time, thou shalt not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. So what he's doing, he's making a contrast here. What he says in verse 21, you've heard that it said by that whole time, thou shalt not kill. And whosoever shall kill shall be in danger of the judgment. So he's referring basically back to the Old Testament scriptures. But this is what Jesus kind of expounds upon it here as we get, when we look at the new covenant that will happen, of course, when Jesus has died with the blood of the covenant, his death, there can't be a testament without the death of a testator. But he's expanding upon that, about the new covenant. He says, but I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause shall be in danger of the judgment. And whosoever shall say to his brother, Reka, shall be in danger of the council. But whosoever shall say, thou fool, shall be in danger of hellfire. It's basically saying, don't even be angry with your brother without a cause. Let's not even have those thoughts of murder in our heart towards another man. You think about, why would someone take another person's life? Think about that. Why would someone take another person's life? Probably because they're angry at him. Probably because that anger is just gone so beyond measure. No forgiveness. I mean, it might even be righteous anger to some degree. But there's no forgiveness in that heart. There's no forgiveness in that heart that leads, there's no forgiveness, and that there's just total wrath that many times that would lead someone to take a man's life. And basically saying, don't even have that. I believe what he's saying in these verses, let's not even have that in our heart. That anger towards our brother without a cause. Or just in general. Let's not even have that anger that could possibly, most people are going to restrain themselves from taking someone's life. I mean, there's probably someone who's made you so mad before that you're like, I wish I could take that person's life. Maybe when you're unsaved. You know what's wrong. But let's not even get to that point where even that thought could possibly even enter into our mind. I'm not saying that enters into our mind. Don't even get that far. Now, of course, Exodus 20:14 says, thou shalt not commit adultery. And Matthew 5, chapter 27 says something kind of similar. It says, you've heard that was said by them all time, thou shalt not commit adultery. So he's talking back about Exodus chapter 20, verse 14, about how we should not commit adultery. But he goes, but I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. So he's saying, hey, don't not only just not commit adultery, but don't think that way about another woman, even in your heart. Don't even think about it. Don't even go there. Don't even allow yourself to think the thought that could lead to that. So he's setting a higher standard here. A way higher standard than we see in the Old Testament. Don't even think like that. Now, of course, in Exodus 20:17, of course, just to really, where it comes down to, it says, at the end of the verse, it says that we shouldn't covet anything that is thy neighbor's. I know I've talked about this before, but we ought not to covet anything. It could be the personality trait, it could be their money, it could be their house, it could be their family, it could be literally anything. Don't covet it. Just be happy with what God's given you and be thankful for what God's given you. He's given us all certain things. He's given some people lots of money. He's given some people not a lot of money, but a lot of talent. He's given different people different things to fulfill a different purpose. And of course, Galatians 5, verse 14, if you can turn there, so we just wrap up our Bible study here this morning. Galatians chapter 5, verse 14, it says, for all the law is fulfilled in one word, even in this, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. So he's saying, basically, all the laws come down to one thing, just love your neighbor as yourself. If you could master that, if you don't, without getting in all the details about the law, for all the laws fulfilled in one word, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. And in Romans chapter 13, verse 10, it says, love worketh no evil to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. When someone, brother Gord, if you love me, thou works no evil towards me. Brother Gord last night, he sent me a text message. He goes, I think he said, have a peaceful night. And I was like, to be honest, he used the right words. I actually was like, that's what I want, a peaceful night. And I was like, I don't know, maybe you knew that, but that's kind of in a sense, that's like love. But love works no evil to your neighbor. Even someone you don't like, to show them some love, that works no evil towards them. And it just works good. Love worketh no evil to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling law. Love, we can show other people, if there's no greater thing that we can do than show other people love. And of course, there's no greater thing that we can do to show people the truth from the Bible. And that's love. That's love. Especially when you know that could bring wrath from someone else. Now we'll just finish off there.